Hello, everyone, and cheers. I'm Kevin Kumar, the co-founder and co-director of Salastina. Welcome to our 50th happy hour. It's actually hard for us to wrap our minds around the idea that we started this series just about a year ago, but it's true. We hope to see you next week at our anniversary happy hour. But for those of you who might be new to Salastina, or of course for our returning friends, we just want to hang out. We invite you to stay a little bit with us here past 7 o'clock when our resident artists will field questions and we'll talk more informally. Tonight's event will take place exclusively in Zoom. Please type your questions for our guest artists in the chat, and you just have to type them in once. We collect them and choose the ones of widest interest. And our time is limited, so we may not get to all of them. Some of you might find the chat distracting, but we can't turn it off for everyone. We do have some suggestions to minimize the impact of the chat with a little tutorial, which we'll link to in the chat. And we'd like to say a big thank you to everyone who has supported us with donations throughout the year. And you can identify those who've joined our membership program by their special Zoom backgrounds. And I'll turn it over to Maya.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maya Jasper-White, Kevin's co-director. We're going to hear a lot from Charles, both through his harp and through some really interesting stories about his life. Charles has the distinction of being our youngest ever happy hour guest. Can I blow your cover? Okay. Charles is 26 years old, which is pretty incredible. He recently told us that he's never been busier than he has this month. So we'll talk a little bit about why that is. But we hope you enjoy this piece that he's about to play. Charles, can you unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So first of all, thank you, Salastina. Thank you, Maya, Kevin, everyone, for having me here this evening. Although, like Maya said, I'm pretty busy this month, which is surprising, and I know is a blessing and an opportunity, especially in these trying times for all of us, but especially those of us in the performing arts where we can't necessarily get out there and be performing in the same way that we used to be. But a lot of the work that I'm doing is recording based. So still to do something like this where even though we're not together in person, but I get to see all these, smiling faces looking back at me in these little Zoom windows. I know we spend so much of our time on Zoom, but this is definitely a breath of fresh air for me, being able to just see the real audience and energy and, attention, I guess, of a real audience. So thank you for choosing to spend your evening with me. This first piece is a piece called Fantasy on a Theme of Haydn by the harpist composer Marcel Grangeny. I often like to open up the programs where I'm playing all kinds of music, like jazz, classical, pop, whenever I'm sort of showcasing the diversity that I bring to the instrument, the wide ranges of musical styles. I like to start with this piece because it's a theme and variations, and something that is closely linked, I guess, to the idea of theme and variations is just like the idea of playing like a jazz tune. Usually when we play standards, we play the head or the theme, then we improvise, which is basically the same as our favorite composers, Haydn, Mozart, just writing some fun variations around this said theme. So anyway, I just think it's an interesting way to sort of begin to break down, I guess, barriers between these musical genres that seem so disparate, but really, in fact, there's more commonality than we think there is. So anyway, this first piece is Fantasy on a Theme of Haydn by harpist composer Marcel Grangeny. I hope you enjoy. Oh, and I will just say, since this is Zoom and technology and it frequently fails us, for any reason someone can't hear me, imagine Kevin or Maya just flag me down with a big wave, and I'll be sure to tune in, so I'm not playing for myself.
goodness, it's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, that was Grangiani's Fantasy on a theme of Haydn.
Without wanting to take away from everything that makes your playing so special, I just have to say, like, it's so refreshing to hear someone make the harp sing in that
Mhm.
way, and just the way that you phrase on the instrument is just gorgeous. So
Oh,
thanks for that.
thank you. I appreciate that.
So, did you just see a harp one day and tell your parents like that's what I want to play, or?
Actually, quite the opposite. I just so I started on violin actually. My for whatever reason, my parents thought that music needed to be an important part of my life. They had me in like kinder music classes when I was barely able to walk. They had a violin in my hands when I was like 3 years old. You know those like little 16th size violins that barely look like they're real functioning
Yes, and they
instruments.
and they sound
Oh my
terrible too.
gosh, they sound god awful. So that actually brings me to my next point of that I was not good at the violin. I was really quite terrible at it. And for all of you who know what a little squeaky violin sounds like when it's not played well, it's torture. It's absolute garbage. So I couldn't deal with it. I mean, I don't, uh, maybe I was just lazy, you know, maybe that's what it was. But I just couldn't deal with that sound in my ear all the time. I hated practicing just because in my ears it never got any better. So anyway, around middle school, just the general music teacher at my school was a harpist,
Mm.
and she
Okay.
told me quite forcefully, "Go home and tell your mom that you want to play the harp." I mean, I didn't know what a harp was at that point. I really had zero clue. But I do what I'm told. I told my mom that I wanted to play the harp, so I tried out a trial lesson, and I was visibly just like struck, just because there's so much like even without any kind of technique, just the sound of the strings themselves, the
Mm.
resonance is just so intoxicating and lovely. And I was just like, I'll practice this. You
Yeah.
know, I'll work on this. This isn't isn't the worst.
As a parent, like I worry about choosing an instrument that I'll have to carry around, you know,
Ooh,
for my
that's
kids.
yeah.
So what was that like? Did you have a harp at home, or did you only practice at school, or how did that
Oh
work?
yeah, so it worked out that so actually with this music teacher, she was just a harpist outside of school, so we didn't even have harps in school.
Okay.
But there was a lovely store about 20 minutes from my home called the Virginia Harp Center that had great rent to own programs, just like most places out here have like you know, rent to own for violin or cello or
Sure.
viola. There was a similar, you know, thing for harp. So I had a much smaller harp at the time when I first started, but yeah, I just took it home, and my parents. I mean, I've always been, you know, like pretty, you know, good for my size. I can lift this thing around. So pretty early on, they were like, Charles, you're gonna move this yourself, and I said, sure, I will take that on.
Were they musicians, or do you have musicians in the family too?
Not especially. They both like to. They've coined the phrase. They play the CD player.
Yeah.
They don't play any any instruments. But on my dad's side of the family, they grew up playing and singing music in church. But
Mhm.
no one really has any classical sort of training in my family. My parents are both, yeah, not musicians.
I see. Okay.
Hmm.
And the other day we were talking about um, how you got on your career path, and you were telling us about. I was wondering if you could share with our audience about like the choices you made from high school, and how you decided to approach your career then.
Yeah, sure. So, I guess I sort of have to take it back to just when I first started, because that music program that I came up in, where I first learned the harp, this music teacher, Linnell Ediger Quartzaya, she runs this amazing music program called the Green. I think it's called Green Spring now. It's gone through a few different iterations, but
Uh-huh.
she made it a point to bring in guest artists for us frequently throughout the course of the year. And
Uh-huh.
not all of those harpists were classical harpists. In fact, most of those harpists were harpists who had their interest in their music in other genres. Like there were some Celtic harpists, jazz harpists, new age or folk harpists. So from a very early age,
Mm.
from like when I was like 11, I knew that these kind of sounds were possible on the instrument.
Mm.
I never really had any formal training in it, but I always knew it was sort of possible, and I tried to pick out stuff by ear and have fun with it. But then, yeah, fast forwarding to my senior year of high school, I had sort of, just like all high schoolers, we think that high school is sort of the pinnacle of all existence, and that everything is, the be all end all. And
Yeah.
I really had a crisis of I don't know, not of conscience, but just I wasn't sure that I was necessarily cut from the cloth to excel in a career in classical music, where I would, get one of those top 8 orchestra positions, or be one of the, one in a million to go on to lead a solo career. And I was just really thinking to myself, like, what do I want my career, or more importantly, my life and connection to music to look like? And at that point, although, and I still love classical music, it's still such a huge, important part of my life. A good chunk of what we do in orchestra is sort of classified as auxiliary, or ethereal, or
Right.
adjacent to the texture, or on top of the texture. Rarely do we have those beautiful Malarian lines that the cellos or violins get to play. So
Sorry.
yeah, that wasn't quite enough for me. Although
Well,
I
hold on.
still,
Wait.
yeah,
Sorry. You were thinking this in high school?
I
Like,
was. I,
I could barely put two thoughts together in high school, so that's
Fair enough. I mean, I was really lucky. I was at an arts boarding school, so everyone
okay.
was sort of, we were all in it, just
Which school
like
is that?
Interlochen Arts Academy
Oh
in
yeah. Okay.
Michigan.
Sure.
Yeah, so we were just all sort of, we thought that, we were the next generation of artists, all having these kind of thoughts and conversations.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so I wasn't sure that that's, I could fully express myself, really, more than anything, playing in an orchestra, which looked like the one career path in classical music. So I asked myself, like, what do I want to do? What do I want to play? And Berkeley College of Music, where I went to school, really seemed to me like the only place, the only option, because there were several schools that I applied to that had jazz programs, and that I could, sort of be an outsider and take some classes in. But Berkeley was the only place that I really saw and visited where I could fully immerse myself, where I could just like start from stage one again and be a baby. Like,
Mm.
just go in and be the person with zero experience, or not zero experience, but like not nearly as much experience as like a guitarist or a bassist, and just like catch up and just play with people who are going to challenge me to see music differently. And it really did that exactly.
Is that why you stayed in Boston? Berkeley's in Boston, right?
Yeah,
I
exactly. And
think
that's
it's
what I
amazing
was.
that your solution.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Maya.
Uh
Oh,
oh.
sorry. Yeah.
Oh.
I was going to say, I think, again, because you're so mature for your age,
Oh,
that uh, not knowing that you were going to be a baby again, going to Berkeley, we're curious to know what were the most difficult things, the most fun things about starting over in a genre that you'd been exposed to but hadn't really tried out before.
yeah, for sure. So I guess I should say that I definitely learned after the fact that I was going to be a baby again. I at the time I was deciding where to go. I expected the immersion level, but I wasn't quite prepared for the hit to the ego that it is to just go somewhere, and or to come from somewhere where you're pretty good at the thing that you do, and then to start over somewhere else, not knowing anyone, and also have like sort of the thing that you're tied to, the thing that you feel like, a lot of us, with being musicians, we tie that to our own self worth, which is like a big, not great habit to do. But it's sort of inescapable at times, and definitely we do on our own work to untangle that. But yeah, it was definitely a challenge. It took me actually a while. I actually considered transferring from Berkeley because I was having such a difficult time. But I chose to ride it out just because I knew I would regret not staying and really completing what I set out to do, by just just again trying something completely different. And then I found my footing when I started at the Global Jazz Institute at Berkeley. That's where I really found, I guess, my home, because I struggled to find a real community. Again, the classical music, as much I say that these musics and genres aren't different, there are in some ways, the communities of people who embrace these different musics just share often very different qualities. So feeling that sort of fish out of water. Once I found the Global Jazz Institute, I got to work with such amazing jazz musicians, like the, I guess, cream of the crop, who just exposed me to all these super crazy ideas of just that just blew my mind. Like I still have recordings of all these workshops that I still revisit today, just thinking, oh, that's what they were trying to say, and my mind wasn't ready for it, you know. But but yeah, it was a challenge,
Interesting.
but it was a worthwhile challenge.
Awesome. Well, tell us about when you started doing your own arranging, and then a little bit about what you're going to play next.
Yeah, sure. So, part of being an improviser or a jazz musician is part of the history of the music and the culture of music is that, and it used to be very similar for classical music, you know, for those who aren't familiar, believe it or not, where, yeah, performers were composers. Like, what a thought. We were both. We weren't just, not that there's anything necessarily wrong with where we're at right now, but, you know, back in the day, people like Mozart, people like Bach, they were virtuosos on their instrument and wrote their own music, and that's very much still a pervading culture amongst the improvised music community. And so I still am not super comfortable at composing myself. So a sort of middle ground that I found was arranging. You know, taking music that melodies that already existed. And just finding ways to find the core of whatever song or piece existed, and sort of just putting putting my own spin on it sounds cheap because it's not quite that, but just finding my own sort of window into that music using my own melodic and harmonic language. So this piece that I'm going to play next is an old favorite. It's My Favorite Things by, oh my gosh, Hammerstein. Oh my gosh, it's My Favorite Things from The Sound of
Yes.
Music, you know.
Yes.
But anyway,
Exactly. That's all we need to know.
that's all you need to know. But the thing that I was really thinking about this piece when I was coming up with it, or this arrangement, was just the idea of like, what is the song about? You know, I learned a really hard lesson at Berkeley with one of my private teachers. I brought this tune that was called "Quiet Nights of Quiet Stars" in, and I was trying to be cool. I had this version in 7/8 that was super fast, and I was like, "Ah, oh, yeah, look at me, I'm doing it." But then my teacher said, "Have you listened to the lyrics? Have you read the lyrics? Do you know what this song is about?" And that really yeah, struck something in me, that it's like, oh yeah, you know, when arranging or when taking someone else's piece of music, it's always important to not lose what the core of it is, even if you take it in a drastically different direction. So something that I've always been careful to do since then with all of my arrangements is to be really respectful of what a specific piece means to me, or what I think the piece meant to the composer. So with My Favorite Things, it's a song, it's a simple song that's just about how your favorite things can make you not feel so bad. You know, about how when you're feeling low, you just try to remember some of your favorite things, and hopefully you can get through, you know, whatever you're going through. So on this piece, I hope you'll hear that. Basically, we start in a place where we're feeling pretty low, and through different permutations of, I mean, I could talk you through the really nerdy stuff about how I take the parallel or relative majors and all this kind of stuff. But you'll just hear how we go from sort of feeling really low to feeling really elated, but maybe that wasn't quite a real state of elation, and somewhere sort of in between is where we come out the other side.
Well, for
So
what it's worth, for nerdy stuff, you've come to the right place. So maybe we'll revisit that.
yeah, maybe we'll talk after.
Okay.
Well, anyway, this is My Favorite Things.
Thank you.
thank you.
Charles, that arrangement just it was stunning.
Oh, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
really
and the way
appreciate
that you described it beforehand, I mean, it was like just that, but I mean, so much more. So,
it. Well, thank you.
how
I
long did it
really
take you to
appreciate
put
it.
that together?
Yeah, that's the thing. I work in weird timings. I'll come up with like the core idea for it like really quickly, and then everything else either happens in a day or I don't hit touch it again for like 2 years. So for
Yeah.
this one, I actually was heavily inspired by this Corey Henry, this jazz pianist Corey Henry, who has a version that he does on a bunch of his live shows. I literally ripped that sort of opening riff from him, but then expanded it into something that goes in a little bit different direction. But
Right on.
yeah.
Cool. So, can you tell us a little bit about what the life of um, a harpist is like? You know, so before COVID, what were you doing career wise? And
Oh man, I had such an exciting 2020 planned.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess. So for me specifically, I try to maintain a balance between. I mean, I don't really actively do anything about it, but I try to just keep as many doors open as possible. So I love to play a wide variety of different styles of music, jazz and classical mainly.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I spend a lot of my time going between performing the two, but then obviously I still work. I mean, that's like the music is still my, vocation. So I play a lot of background music, a lot of just sort of corporate gigs, that kind of stuff. But I've been again blessed over the years to just little by little strike a better balance between the gigs that I want to do versus the ones that pay the bills. And more, the gigs that I want to do have started to pay the bills. So that's really exciting. I do things, everything from a couple years ago, I started subbing or playing extra with the Boston Symphony and the Boston Pops. That has been something that's been super, super exciting, especially for me playing with the Pops. Just because it's such a fast-paced environment. Yeah, we were just talking before we got on here. It's definitely the environment where you show up, the charts are just there on your stand, and you're ready, and you figure it out, and you go. And I really love that kind of environment. But then also I have a few different projects here in Boston. I play with my own quartet, which is basically just like the typical jazz quartet of tenor sax, bass, drums, and instead of piano, we have me at the harp. I also play in a duo with a vibraphonist and percussionist, and then another one of my favorite projects that I'm a part of usually is this trio where I play with an accordionist and keyboard player and a drummer. So I sort of take on the bass role in that group. So I
Oh,
have,
interesting.
if you see, there's another harp behind me
Yeah.
that has these little lightning bolts, but it's an electroacoustic instrument that I can plug into an amplifier or PA, and I really can get the bass to sound pretty much like an electric bass. So I have a lot of fun playing.
So that's the pickups are built in. Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
literally like a pickup on every single string, and then
Oh
they're
wow.
routed internally to separate into three different channels: one for high, one for medium, one for low. So
Okay.
you can like EQ them and get them exactly sounding how you want.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super hip. It's
Nice.
Oh
this
man, are you
Harp Tech
plugged into
Premium.
that? Can we get a demo at some
Oh
point?
man, maybe in the well, I wish, but I actually it takes a little too long to set up
You got
that
it.
one.
Gotcha.
But next time I'll remember and I'll have it ready.
Well, so
Awesome.
um you were saying that March is really I don't know if it's actually just March or if things in general have picked up for you a lot.
Yeah, again, it's been great that I've had the opportunity for a lot of work to come back for me. I
Mm-hmm.
right before the pandemic, I actually started teaching part time at the Boston Conservatory up here. It
Mm-hmm.
was originally sort of like in an interim sort of position, but it's developed into, I mean, mostly out of. I mean, I don't want to underplay my own talents, but out of necessity. There's a hiring freeze in place, so they're stuck with me. But also, I don't mean to downplay myself too much. But I'm excited to have taken that on. So that's been stretching me in a different way. Because I honestly, just speaking super candidly, I hadn't done much teaching before this
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, and it's really taught me so much. Like I finally understand that saying of like, oh yeah, I don't teach the students teach me. It's
Yeah.
is so real when you have to break down concepts
Yeah.
into packageable sentences for people to digest. It makes you reconnect with the music in a completely different way. It's changed the way I've played chamber music. It's been really exciting.
Interesting.
But then also I've had a lot of performance opportunities more recently. Something that I'm super excited for is I'm headed to Slovakia this Friday to record a jazz album with a good friend of mine who is a vocalist here in Boston, but she's from there. So I'm super. I mean, it's crazy. In the middle of a pandemic, I'm flying,
Yeah.
to Europe. But they got the travel exception for me and everything. I've been getting tested for COVID twice a week since January, so
Yeah.
everything's super
Wow.
safe. So everything's we'll be good.
Wow.
I don't know if this applies to your position at the conservatory, but educators can, you know, get vaccinated as well.
That's what. So in Massachusetts,
Oh, is it
apparently it
different?
only applies to from K through 12 and not to
Oh, got it.
higher ed. I've
Okay.
called a few times the Mass, what is it, a Boston Medical Center, and just
Yeah.
tried to be like, hey, can I please? But to no avail.
Gotcha.
I'm debating just walking into a Walgreens at 4 p.m. and just sticking around, seeing because I've heard, that they just are some have to be disposed of. So
That's right.
if they have extra at the end of the day, I'm not
Yeah.
taking it out of the hands of anyone but the garbage. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Charles, you were pretty self disparaging about your compositions, but we are going to be treated to a
Oh yeah.
premiere of one. Can you tell us about the piece that you wrote that you'll play next?
Yeah, absolutely. So this next tune is entitled "Once More." Um, I'm sort of very self-deprecating about my own composition. It's not that I don't like what I write. It's just that it takes a lot for me to come up with something that I feel like is, I guess, worthy of being heard. So this is one of the few tunes that is one of my compositions that I'm very happy about and super excited about. So it's called Once More. It has the same sort of story of a lot of the pieces that I've written or arranged, where I come up with a hook or like a loop or something that's really just that my ear is drawn to. Usually for me, I'm a harmony guy, so I come up with like a 4 or 8 bar sort of chord progression, and then I struggle for months or years to come up with a melody. So this was one of those. It's been through a whole bunch of iterations. It started as just like a loop I came up with one day when I was messing around. I lived in my voice memos for a long time. Then I took it just the chords to my band about a year or a year and a half ago before the pandemic, and we played a sort of semi-improvised version of this where we just used what I had come up with as a starting point, and then it evolved into whatever it evolved to on the spot. But this during the pandemic, I finally took the time to write out a full melody and come up with a nice arrangement for it. This is Once More. I hope everyone enjoys. Thank you. Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Thank you.
Charles, I'm going to just take a second out here for our nonprofit necessities.
Sure.
These happy hours are free to the public, but they are not free to produce. We know that this time is not easy for everyone, but if you have the means and would like to support Salastina, we would of course greatly appreciate it. Your donation would be completely tax deductible, and we will put how you can donate in the chat. We also right now have a matching gift going on. I believe it's $10,000 matching gift, and yeah, we haven't quite reached it yet, so we would love your help with that. And just to let you know that, aside from the happy hours, we have other artistic programming going on, and we also play for people in the hospital, in the ICU.
I can now add that
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, Yo-Yo Ma was a guest artist on our hospital series, so that's been getting some attention today. But we have been doing it 3 times a week since May.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have to pay Yo-Yo Ma.
He did not want to get paid at the rate that we pay everybody else. Let's just say he gifted that.
Yeah, I'm just joking. But yeah, we'd appreciate that. So that's going to be in the chat there. And Charles, we're kind of, because our conversation was, so interesting, we kind of lost track of time.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you could set up this this last piece. We were talking about how much we all love, early 20th century French music.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the things that I think is pretty well documented, but I guess, again, depending on your level of exposure, a lot of the early 20th century French composers had a huge influence on jazz musicians and still do today, and vice versa. A lot of the jazz musicians that were coming up around the same time, Duke Ellington, all these folks had profound influences right back at people like Ravel, especially, and Stravinsky. I know he's not French, but I mean, he's French enough, really. Yeah, I'm just going to play a well-known favorite of Claude Debussy's, Clair de Lune, from his Suite Bergamasque. Once again, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'll be around for this casual hang to answer some of your questions. Feel free to keep dropping those in the chat that Maya and Kevin or whoever will be curating. But yeah, again, this is Claude Debussy's Clair de Lune. Hope you enjoy.
You got people in tears here, man. So beautiful.
Appreciate it.
You're going to have fun reading the chat when we send it over to you.
Oh,
There's a
I'm
lot
so
of
excited.
beautiful messages. So at this point, Charles has graciously agreed to lend us a few more minutes so that we can ask him your questions.
Yeah.
And Marissa will cue you up. So if you're able to ask it yourself, that would be great. So,
there were some questions about Charles. If this is okay with you, some people just wanted to see how how the pedals work on the harp.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if there's an exactly. My computer's on my desk and it doesn't quite go down, but I can explain it. Basically, there are seven pedals on the bottom of the harp down here, and there's one for each musical note: A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So seven pedals, and then there's three notches for each pedal. The up position is flat. Uh, the middle position is natural, and the down position is sharp. So the reason that is because there's such a glare. But if you can see these discs right up here, as I move the pedals, you can see they move.
Hmm.
So the way the pedals work is that when the pedal's up, none of the discs are touching the string. When it's in the middle,
Yeah.
this top disc moves and pinches the string to make it a little bit shorter, so it goes from flat to natural. And then when you put it all the way down, the second disc here engages and pinches the string even more to make it even shorter, which raises the pitch even more.
Would you mind demonstrating? Because I'm not sure that everybody knows what flat, natural, and
Oh
things
yeah,
like that.
so I'll use C as an example. Again, sorry for the glare, but all the red C's on the harp are C. I mean, are U. All the red strings on the harp are C. Yeah, that's correct. So when the pedal's in the up position, everything is C flat. When I move it down one notch, it becomes C natural, and then one more notch, C sharp. So all three of those notes are all being produced on the same strings.
So are
wow.
you're changing, doing pedal work during runs, like fast runs sometimes, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially during more of the, I guess, jazz pieces because it's also chromatic. So,
Right. Okay. So that's a question that I had for you, which is with all the modulations that happen while you're improvising. I mean, on the
yeah.
piano, it's one thing because all the keys are in front of you, and on the violin,
Yes.
they're all under your fingers, but you've got your feet to worry about if you want to modulate to a new key,
Yep.
you know,
That's
whoa.
that. That's the thing is yeah with instruments like the piano or guitar or violin, yeah, every all 12 notes, but especially the piano, they're all right in front of you. And I even find this myself when I'm playing the keyboard versus I have like let me show you. I just have this little keyboard that lives on my desk. So when I'm writing or playing the keyboard, my mind and my ears go to very different places because I can visually see the available options. Whereas when I'm playing the harp, it's just it feels different. You can only have seven independent pitches at one given time. If you want a different one, you have to move your feet accordingly. So it is something of like a memory game of just like remembering where am I? What do my feet look like? What notes do I currently have available to me?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's so interesting. So now let's see, maybe William Sawyer. He had a couple questions. Sounds like you're still here. If you'd like to unmute yourself, you can. I'll give you 3 seconds to do so before I ask your question for you. Okay, so William's wondering, tips for composers writing for harp that
Ooh.
don't play themselves.
Oh man, I can and literally have given multi-day workshops all about this concept. But some immediately, I guess, helpful tips are just to think of the harp in terms of its strengths and what it is most inclined to do. And in my mind, the harp is most suited to resonate. You play a chord and it goes and it keeps going, and I'm sure even right now it's causing issues with my voice because it just continues to ring. But that's actually something that is a challenge in improvised music contexts. But in terms of classical music, or I guess just anything related to the harp, that's what we want, is that beautiful, lush sound. So something for composers, even though it might sound picky, and for those of you who like to write with more of a equal 12 tone sort of approach, um, trying to think within the confines of 7 individual pitches. So like 1C, 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, 1A, etc. At once, I think is a great place to start. Like give yourself a pitch set and let the harpist just stay in that pitch set for a while, rather than navigating lots of different, sort of key areas.
Nice. Okay, Vanya. Vanya, if you want to ask your question, you can unmute yourself now. Okay, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, Charles. I'm
Hello.
really amazed your skills so my question is, are you taking a harp with you to Slovakia? And if yes, which one?
Yeah. So I am lucky enough to have a very good relationship with the maker of not this harp, but the electroacoustic harp that is made by Camac Harps based in France. And since I love it so much, and because I am something of an ambassador for the instrument, they are providing me with an instrument to play on while I'm in Slovakia. So no, I don't have to fly it myself.
Okay, this will be easier, much easier, not to
Yeah.
worry about.
Yeah.
So, and my second question is just remark, if I may, very fast.
Mhm.
Not too many men play harp.
Sure.
Were you not discouraged at your beginning of your career to play and continue to play harp and keep the harp for your life, professional life?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So it's true that when you think of the harp, you might not necessarily think of it as the most masculine instrument.
No.
No, not quite. But it's interesting. I was lucky to grow up in a place where I wasn't ever judged or put down for playing the harp just because I'm a guy. In fact, most of the people at the schools that I went to thought it was interesting that I
Yeah.
didn't look like the typical harpist. But so yeah, I guess so. I guess in some ways it serves me. But that being said, it's also interesting not to take it to too I guess crazy of a place. But just like any instrument, it's thought of as more of a feminine instrument. But a lot of the leading professionals and soloists happen to be men as well. So it's one of those things of it's interesting and somewhat unfortunate that even a sort of female concepted instrument is still male dominated in our classical music community. So we want to continue to open up spaces for women to excel at an instrument that is closely associated with them. Anyway, just
Thank you so much,
Well
Charles.
said.
Good luck.
Charles,
yeah. Thank you.
what's involved with representing a harp company like that, besides getting free instruments?
Oh, yeah. So I'm not officially any kind of sponsored or anything like that. But
Okay.
just they like what I do. I love what they do, and we have a very symbiotic relationship. But yeah, they're a great company. The current president or leader of the company is just total. I mean, and I mean this with the most respect. Is just a total nerd
Yeah.
when it comes to engineering.
That's a
So
good
he
word
just
here. Yeah.
yeah, he loves just everything having to do with the harp. He's constantly innovating. this electroacoustic harp, and it's just there's nothing else like it. I mean, lots of companies make a version of the electroacoustic harp, but none of them have these contact mics in such a way, and
Yeah.
with the three separate channels for low, medium, high, it really gives me such control over the kind of sound that I want to get out of it. So
Interesting.
Awesome.
Okay, we're going to invite Yoko Gardner to ask her question. I think it's about improvising.
mm,
Let's see.
always
Ask her.
happy to talk about improvising.
Well, okay. If Yoko, are you there? So her question was basically um, the pieces, like the jazz pieces. Do you just? I think the question, if I understand it correctly, is like, how much of it is planned, or is a lot of it just really improvised on stage?
Mm.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. So it depends on a lot of it depends on the context. So a lot of the times with my when I'm playing solo, although I sort of have the at least the arc of the piece planned. Like with my favorite things, I know I'm going to start with these fifths. I know that from there I'm going to go through a set of chord progressions, but the melody and how I shape the chords will vary. I know that I'm going to go to a solo section after that, but the exact nature of the solo section might change. Like, basically, there's two different chordal patterns that I use there. One's just the loop, and one is a more extended thing. And maybe I'll stick on the loop for longer. Maybe I'll go here. But I sort of have more of an arc in mind. But frequently, when I'm playing with others, especially in the context of my own quartet, sometimes we will have just a standard, and that just means like the head of a tune, and we'll just see where it takes us. Sometimes we'll just keep playing over the chord changes of the tune. Sometimes we'll keep the form of the tune widely going away from the changes, but still keeping the form. Sometimes we'll just break the form completely and just it's a complete vehicle for just self-expression. But yeah, when I'm alone, I'm sort of a little bit more reserved with how much I freely improvise.
Charles, a lot of people had questions about whether the pieces that you played tonight have been recorded. Can you speak to that?
That is a good question. Let me think. None of them have. Well, sort of. My favorite things has been recorded a few different times and is available on YouTube. There are live recordings for me playing like on my local news station, and I think there's one with my trio where we're playing. So you can find recordings of my favorite things on YouTube. Once more, I just played on a set with a vibraphonist, that collaborator of mine. So if you look up Charles Overton and Julian Loida or Charles Overton Celebrity Series, it'll be a part of that set. But this was the first time I played my tune Once More by myself solo. So that was
Wow.
the premiere, I guess.
Well, so
Awesome.
just so everybody knows, you can email Marissa and ask for a stream of this event. So
Perfect.
She's waving up
She's
in,
waving,
in the
yeah.
corner there. You can also, we have YouTube playlists, like she mentioned in the chat, that always contain things that were played or discussed in the happy hours. So it's a nice reference point.
Nice. And then I
we-
do have my album available on my website, though. It doesn't have those two tunes, but it has quite a few others
Awesome.
with me and that quartet that I was describing: drums, bass, tenor, harp.
Great.
Awesome.
So we wanted
Carl,
to invite. Oh yeah.
Oh,
go ahead.
go ahead. Carl Morton, you had a question that was about expression. Are you ready to unmute yourself? You'll get the 3-second rule before we ask for you. Okay, so Carl's question was, is it me, or does he get a lot more variation in tone out of his harp than is usual? Or is it that he's playing solo and doesn't have to blend with everybody else?
I mean, I don't know. I hope that it is. Maybe to answer that question and take it, one of the things that I love about the harp, because for the longest time I didn't have the greatest relationship with the instrument. I really felt very strongly that I had to overcome the instrument. Like for a lot of the time, personal identity as a musician was tied to, like, I'm a musician. I'm not a harpist. I'm not like those other harpists or whatever. Like, I don't even know what is going on. But I for a long time just didn't like to think of myself as just a harpist. But a harpist changed my mind about that. This man Sivan Magen. He's an incredible artist. He's an Israeli harpist who's currently based, I think, out of Brooklyn, but he tours internationally and all this kind of stuff. But I had the opportunity to play in a masterclass for him, take a lesson with him, and he just really just expanded my mind to the realm of what is possible when you really break down the minutia of the physical touch of the instrument. Like, he really reminded me that unlike a lot of other instruments, we are one of the few that have direct contact with the sound that we're creating. Like with the piano, there's the keys which trigger hammers that then hit the strings. With brass instruments, there's the embouchure, the mouthpiece, which then goes through the. Anyway, just with us, there's a direct content, and for better or for worse, how we approach the string, with how much flesh of our finger, with how we approach it, how we pull it, how much we don't pull it. All of these little things go into how much the tone that we produce. So it's something that now I love, because I can create these wide variety of sounds and colors that I just think are so lovely. But for a while, I wasn't quite hip to that.
You know, I think also all the recording work you've been doing recently is kind of, paying off too, because
I'm sure.
you're just I think the word I used in the chat was like sizing your playing to the microphone, and just
Yeah.
it's just a I think everyone is noticing like what a range of color and texture that you get out of it.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely different when you can hear yourself, especially in headphones, when everything is under a microscope. It definitely gets you super familiar with the exact sound that you're creating.
Hmm.
That's true.
All right,
Andy and Esteban.
Yeah. Let's see.
Hi. We were wondering what kind of music that you listen to that informs your playing and your composing, but also what kind of music that you listen to that is just fun, that you just enjoy listening to?
Yeah, good questions. So in terms of the music that I guess influences me, um, first and foremost, there's this harpist, this jazz harpist, Park Stickney, who I feel like really introduced me to. I'll drop his name in the chat really quick while I'm continuing to speak. Or maybe I'll message it to. Oh, here it is, everyone. But anyway, he's an amazing harpist, jazz harpist, who really was the first person who I saw doing like improvising on the instrument. But some other sort of more mainstream artists that I listen to who really inform me. Pat Metheny is one that I love. Excuse me, I'm trying to think. Billy Childs is a jazz pianist that is super close to my heart. Brad Meldau, Herbie Hancock. Lage Lund is an amazing jazz guitarist who I'm super into his sound. It's mainly guitarists and pianists in the jazz realm that really inform a lot of my writing and improvising. And then just for fun, it really varies. I've been super into James Blake recently. I really love his sound. Who else? I sort of get into the habit where I just find an album and I won't leave it for like 3 months, and I just listen to that one album for a while. So I've been doing that with Retrograde of James Blake recently. But yeah, I'm sure there's more that I listen to, but that's just been on my in my cans for the last little while.
Awesome. Good to see you guys, Andy and Esteban. Thanks for asking your question. Charles, we have imposed on your time enough. You're in Boston. It's late.
Oh, it's all good. I love talking to you folks.
Yeah, if you don't mind, there are a couple more questions about
Happy to.
Pedals. Like, do both feet use the pedals?
Yeah, so the pedals are sort of laid out like the keyboard of a computer, where it's sort of arranged based on how frequently you want to use certain pedals at the same time. So yeah, there's just 2 feet but 7 pedals. So there's 3 on the left side and 4 on the right. So the order is B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So we have it arranged that way. It's sort of in the circle of fifths. B, E, A, D. Oh my God, no. B, E, A. Well, anyway, it makes sense when you think about it, but it's just so you can navigate the keys as well as possible.
Seems like a lot to keep track of, kind of like the organ.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Charles, do you have to write down the arrangements that you make, or do you just keep them in your head? That's from David Codell.
That's a really good question. It really, again, depends on context. A lot of them, a lot of the arrangements I made for my band for that quartet, a lot of them stayed just purely aural for a long time, and I've only just begun to write them down. But yeah, usually they start as just being in my head, and as I need, they really just hit the paper when I need them. So in this pandemic, I hadn't played any real improvised music with a band for a whole year, and then I had the opportunity to do some recording just a few weeks ago. But since it wasn't my regular band, I was like, oh, I have to write out this arrangement that I haven't done with people other than these 3 people. So yeah, it's just when the need necessitates, write it down.
There was a question earlier. I don't think we actually wrote this one down, but somebody wanted to actually hear a little bit of the arrangement that you said didn't work of Quiet Night and Quiet Stars.
Oh my gosh, sure. I can be obnoxious. I'm always happy to be obnoxious.
All right.
Let's see. So if you don't know the song, the original goes something like. Like a really beautiful bossa nova by Jobim. But I came into my private lesson at Berkeley going. Like really just hammering.
Not so
something.
Quiet Nights.
Not so Quiet Nights. That's right.
I think it sounds awesome.
There's definitely a time and place to make it happen, but it was.
I'm glad you asked that, Kevin. That's cool.
Charles, this has been amazing. You've just been an amazing guest. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to, again, make music for real people, even though we're behind screens. At least I can see you guys.
Charles, have you ever been to Los Angeles?
I have a couple of times. I took the LA Phil audition a couple years, or not years ago, 2 Septembers ago. And I got to spend a few days out there, which was really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll find a reason to have you back out here.
Yeah, I'd love to. There's actually a one of the few stateside Camac stores is in Pasadena. So I'm hoping to come out there for maybe a show once the opens back up.
Let us know when you do. That's actually where we do our concerts too. So if we can piggyback off that, that would be amazing.
I would love to. Yeah, that sounds beautiful.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much again. And everybody else, you're welcome to stick around and hang out with us for a few minutes if you have any questions for nerdy string players. But thank you so much, Charles.
Before everyone goes, next week is a celebration of our 1-year anniversary of doing this series. So for those of you who don't know, we were strictly a live concert series before, and once COVID hit, we pivoted to doing these events. But yeah, I mean, if you missed some stuff, I guess it's safe to say this. If you missed some stuff like from some of the events, and we couldn't really give you the replay of that, you might be able to see some footage. Just being very vague on purpose.
You are being very vague.
But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about what the last year has been like, what your support has meant as well, and what's coming up in the future too. So yeah, Charles, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you both. Thank you, Salastina, for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. Bye bye.
All right. Have a great night.
You too. All right. Let's see. Does anybody else want to unmute themselves and say hello? You're welcome to. We'll stick around for a few minutes.
Wow, we had a lot of people stay late for the conversation part of it. That's great.
He was amazing.
Yeah.
He's just like the full package. Just so good at what he does, and humble and fun and natural, easygoing.
Yeah,
Really
and
great.
Not 26 years old.
I know. It's a little bit sobering to reflect back on being 26.
Yeah. Can people just unmute themselves right now? Oh, Lisa Overton. I'm guessing a relation of Charles?
Yay!
Here, I ask you to unmute yourself.
I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you for having Charles on. I've truly enjoyed this. We don't often have the opportunity to hear him like this. So this was a joy to have him. So thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. And can you tell us how you know Charles?
Charles is my son.
So you don't get to hear him often?
No.
Oh, no.
Oh my
We hear him.
gosh.
Yeah. So it's great, It's wonderful to have this opportunity.
If my son played the way that he did, I would just call him up and be like, play something right now.
Well, maybe I'll start doing that for your recommendation. How about that? And I'm sure he would do that. So
No, that's very kind of you to say that. And
yeah.
your son is
And
just extremely
congratulations on a full year doing this. This is tremendous and a great opportunity for those of us who love music like we do.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Congratulations. You must be so proud.
Very thankful.
Yeah.
Very, very thankful. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
Lisa, thank you so much for putting it into the chat, into our chat. This has just made my day. When we get on our Zoom calls with the school, you tell me not to drive. Well, okay, I had to see it. So I put it on my phone, like, just was getting it. When I got home at 9, get out of my way. I know what I'm doing. And my daughter, Sarah, joined me, and it has just been so spectacular. And I if you have the recording, I would love to have it, love to share it with, I have a group of 3rd through 5th graders who are playing violin. And so this would be so inspirational to them.
Maybe cut the part where he said that violin was too hard.
Do that with that, because I'm going to say, but if you think the violin is hard, look at the harp.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
See the harp with all of that,
The idea of playing anything with my feet,
it was just
it just terrifies me. Like
I'm sorry?
Oh, the idea of having to play anything with my feet.
And the hands. I did the organ when I was younger, and I was stepping over myself, with that. But
are you a music
we got to college, and I am not. No, I'm just the chair of the organizer of a violin program for underserved children in my area.
Oh,
and so
where's that?
they play so much better than I do, because I don't play the violin at all. We're in New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Okay.
Right.
And,
well, that's great that you do that work.
Yeah. So.
Well, thank you. Thanks for saying that.
It is a joy.
Yeah.
It is a joy. Yeah. And so, what an inspiration. Everything is just wonderful.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Lisa, for the invitation. And you guys keep up the phenomenal work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Very inspiring.
Thanks.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Does anybody else want to say hello? Let's see.
Hey, this is David Codell. I just want to say
David.
that next week, everyone's going to be saying this, but I'm going to say it now. You guys have brought so much joy into my life. Music is like the most important thing in my life. And there are no concerts or anything to do except Salastina. Although I did go online and watch the LA Chamber Orchestra concert on Friday night last night.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Shaham. But apart from that, you guys have sustained a bunch of people who would be really depressed if they didn't have these happy hours. They really are the happiest hours of my life. And I want to thank you.
Thank you so
David.
much. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been typically for these events, we're not too much ahead of the workflow. It's sort of like, okay, this one's over. Who have we got next? Let's make sure we reach out to them, talk to them. And maybe there's some ideas floating around about what we might want to do. But for this one, it's kind of like producing a recap of all. We have to comb through all these recordings and call highlights and ask the audience what their favorites were and hope that there are some themes in there that emerge, which there are. And certainly, hearing you say that, how meaningful it's been to you and to others is huge for us.
David,
so
I was
thank
just
you.
thinking about like if just Salastina, if we didn't do this for the last year, what would we have done? I mean, it's just like it's hard to imagine this last year without having I don't know, it's been an outlet for us too,
Totally.
Yeah, before I leave, can I just be a brat and ask people who are still on the line to consider giving you some donations?
David, thank you. That's not being a brat. That's called being an excellent wingman. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh gosh, lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank
David.
you. Yeah, thank you.
Was Anne? Did you want to say something? I thought I saw you. Oh, 1 second. We're gonna have to unmute you, or you're gonna have to unmute yourself. I think.
I did it. I just sent another donation.
Oh, thank you, Anne.
$1,000 on chat.
Wow.
And you already have my credit card number. Just charge it, confirm it with me, but absolutely. There you go.
Oh my God. Thank you. Wow.
You've been
Thank you
so much.
generous.
I
Thank you.
love these evenings. I won't go quite as far as David did. This is not my whole life, but I love these evenings. I'm so thrilled with what you all have been doing this whole year. It's just really quite wonderful. And I'm eager to have you back on the West Side again, for real.
Yeah, we're eager to be there too.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And anyway, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Anne.
While we have you guys, can we casually poll you about, it does seem like there was a lot of optimism about reopening. Do you feel, I'd love to see some thumbs up, thumbs to the side, thumbs down. How optimistic do you feel about summer, fall, winter of this year? Up.
Summer, fall, winter.
I think fall is a pretty sure thing.
Yeah. With regulations in place, of course, I should offer that as the protocol, I should say. Safety.
I mean, I would just say that I think that the goal should be the fall, that the vaccine is rolling out. It is gonna, even though they're like making it more available, there's not gonna be enough. And we should all stay safe. We should all protect our families and ourselves. And it's really disappointing as somebody who loves live music. But on the other hand, life itself matters
Right.
as well.
Right. Can't enjoy it if you ain't alive. There's that.
Sarah, did you?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
you're unmuted. Oh, great.
okay. Yeah, I work in a public library and we're not planning like in building in-person programs until the fall. We'll be like
Okay.
doing some stuff outside. But we're in Oregon, so we have to wait till July when it stops raining. But
Right.
what I noticed is like my local symphony is one of the few, like they were the first that I was aware of that actually published a full season schedule and was like, we're doing this. Seattle's came out about 2 weeks later and they have very few guest stars, guest musicians come in. And as much as like, we all feel a little bit weird about who's getting vaccinated, who's still waiting. Da, 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 da. But man, this does not get solved until the rest of the world gets vaccinated too, especially in classical music, which has such a huge international element.
Right.
So I'm hopeful. At the same time, like I watched a recorded, like recently released, but recorded in 2019 video of a concert. And just this feeling of like, oh my God, the musicians are breathing down each other's necks and the audience is all sitting next to each other. And I'm like, okay, how am I actually going to feel sitting in an audience in October? Am I going to be okay with it? Also, I just want to say that like I have my budget meeting with the finance director for my city tomorrow. I'm like, can I squeeze an in-house harpist into our budget? Probably not, but I want to.
Nice.
But yeah, just for those of you who aren't local here, we are planning on doing these happy hours. We're continuing to do them weekly. I mean, that's along with our concerts. And if you are a digital member as well, then you have the opportunity to watch live streams of the concerts.
Yeah. Christy, did you point out that Diana had a question? If she's still here, let's see.
Oh, Anne, did you?
Hi,
sorry.
Diana McNally.
Okay, hold on, Anne.
Hi. Well, hi everybody. I think I'm in Southern California in Orange County, and and I just recently discovered you with Hillary Hahn and then Alan Menken, and so I'm a huge fan of all of you, and just delighted to make your acquaintance. I think, Maya, you asked my question about the pedals. I'm fascinated by what's going on with that thing. I think you can see behind me, I have a Celtic harp.
Yeah.
And I'm a pianist and grew up with piano and then discovered violin and fiddle. And I'm just in a whole bunch of crazy like Scottish, Irish fiddle jams. And
Very cool.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
My daughter, when she was really little, she's 27 now and lives in Boston. But when she was really little, she discovered in a box of Cracker Jacks, I was like letting my 4-year-old eat Cracker Jacks, the little gift, the little prize inside was a little piece of paper with a picture of a harp.
Oh.
And she said, I want to play this. And she announced that she wanted to play the harp. And we had no harp teachers in the area. And I talked to a harpist who said, well, a child probably should play the piano for a few years. So since I was a private piano teacher, I started giving my daughter lessons. And then she found...
How did that go?
Great. She was just like,
oh,
I have
good.
sons too that didn't want anything to do with it. But my daughter just loved it. And then she went into the violin, and then she saw Natalie Haas play cello.
Oh, nice.
That was it for her, and she's been a cello player ever since. But she did acquire a harp, and before shutdown, and she lives in Boston, and she was visiting, and she was going to take it back with her, and she decided to leave it. And then I got to hang on to it during shutdown, and I've been learning to play it, doing every YouTube video I could find.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
It has levers, and so I was fascinated by what Charles was doing on the big harp, and the idea of pedals. It's hard enough having to reach up and change a lever. He's amazing.
Yeah, he really is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. You're just changing different instruments and genres and people. It's just such a treat. Anyway, thank you.
Okay. Is Natalie Haas still playing with Alistair Fraser?
Yes, very much so. And we know both of them quite well.
Cool.
They just celebrated their 20th, and she's so young too. I mean, her 20th year playing with Alistair, and she doesn't live in Boston any longer. She left Boston. I think she's still teaching through Berkeley. And my daughter has studied with her and with Mike Block.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, Mike was a guest with us too.
He was.
Yeah. If you email Marissa, she can give you the replay of that. That was really fun.
We just really love it. He's just terrific. And so Boston, boy, what a musical town that is, as well as.
Yeah. And actually we tried. maybe you can help us. I think we tried to get Brittany Haas
Oh,
on here as a guest, but I'm not sure what happened. So
oh
actually,
yeah.
do we have the
I've
two
been
of them
back.
together? I don't know if do they play together?
They do play together. Brittany lives in Nashville, I believe.
Okay.
And Brittany is, the two sisters are, real close, and they do get together and do
How
crossover
cool would that be?
genre.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, well, I'll see if. Oh yeah, like I have that much power, but.
Well, we didn't ask Natalie, but I mean, she would be an awesome guest
Totally.
too. So
Totally.
Oh, she would. And these people, as you know, and you as well, are just so down to earth and nice and humble, and they're great teachers, and just to share their joy and love of music with all of us is just it just makes me happy to have gotten through this horrible year. But
Oh, good. Diana, we should also mention that we're quite seriously considering adding a venue in Orange County or the South Bay next season. So for those of you who live down there, oh, I see some thumbs up from Rachel. Hey. Nice. So at least we'll have, oh, and Christy, yay. At least we'll have 3 people.
In Anaheim.
Nice.
I'm in Garden Grove, but I can make
Okay, see. Okay, I'll go to Garden Grove.
Irvine. Irvine.
Hi, Anne. Go ahead.
Hey, I recommend
thank you, Diana.
a series that a live series that I think most of our audience would really enjoy. It's called Classical Tahoe, and it is in Klein Village, up near Lake Tahoe.
Okay.
And it's they have had a full orchestra for years and years, not doing that right now, but they've got a chamber group, and they are having live concerts from the last week in July through the 16th of August.
Oh, fun.
Perfectly wonderful. I will, there's 3 different conductors for this season. I will be up there for the whole time. I'm going to interview all the conductors, record them, and write some pieces about them, which I like to do with them all the time. I love musicians, and I recommend it. I think you would all love it. Just look it up. It's called Classical Tahoe.
Classical Tahoe, fun. I'm embarrassed to say, as a native Angelino, I've actually never been to Lake Tahoe. I know. I've been to Yosemite and Mammoth tons and tons of times every year.
No,
That was special.
Not Tahoe.
For 3 weeks from anyway, in August, early August to mid-August. I'm thinking about renting a condo that holds about 6 people. So if anybody's interested, let me know.
Interesting.
Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, thank you.
It's rehearsals every afternoon, and actually every morning and every afternoon, and then the evening concerts. And there's a concert on the 16th.
Oh, I miss festivals.
It's something
Summer festivals are fun.
all of you. I know you would.
Thanks, Anne.
Thank
And I
you.
have recommended this to all of you, all of them.
Oh, good.
Good.
Good. Excellent. All right. Would anybody else like to say hello before we call it a, oh my gosh, Vincent Lim, nice background. That's taking me back to my childhood.
Let's see.
So Maya, if I could, Maya and the rest of you, I found out about Salastina through Facebook only just 3 months ago or so. And I've really found the experiences enjoyable. I'm glad that I found it. What really is amazing to me is you always sort of know that there's this talent pool out there. Like there's people who are musicians and they do their thing and it kind of happens, but you don't really understand it or appreciate it as much because you go to shows, say at Cedrostrom or, wherever. But to be able to see not only the variety of artists that you have with the different instruments or composers or even comedians that you have, but because you see them playing either solo or maybe they've got, a partner playing with them on piano or whatnot, like you really sort of appreciate it more because you get into the artistry and the artists themselves. And you don't get that when you go see a Broadway production or some other orchestral event. And so it's interesting to have those details because we get to ask questions matter how stupid or how technical, you really get into the mindset of that individual. And then I think it gives a greater appreciation when you see a group as a whole, whether it's a trio or a whole orchestra or whatever, you sort of understand it more. And it increases, at least for me, the level of appreciation that I have for not just the technicality of the field and people trying to make a career out of being a musician, but just even the whole concept of an opera and a Broadway show or some quartet. You just, I don't know, it seems to give more depth to that.
Oh, thank you for saying so.
That's like you kind of hit what we're trying to do, and
we love it when that happens.
Yeah. No, I was struck by something Charles said about teaching today, about how when you teach, you actually are being taught and having to actually articulate things in a way that you don't normally do as a musician. And we found that like a lot of musicians and people feel like talking about things takes away from the magic of it, right? It like you're putting into words things that can't be put into words. But for us, it's the opposite. We feel like just having a conversation about these kinds of things can actually enrich everybody's experience.
Exactly.
So, so we're so happy to hear that, that it's working.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. And do you have any suggestions for venues in Orange County? Oh,
that's an open question. I mean, oh yeah.
What's that? Your house?
My house, I said.
Nice.
There's a lot of venues here. Obviously, Cedrostrom and Costa Mesa is the biggest. They have a couple of auditoriums over there, but a lot of the community colleges have event centers. We have Cal State Fullerton, we have UC Irvine. Cal State Fullerton actually has a good venue.
We've played there a few times.
As does Fullerton. Well, they don't call it Fullerton Junior College anymore, but the equivalent of Fullerton. I know the community college I work in has a wonderful venue.
Oh, where do you work?
In Beach, they've got a really great theater program there. And a lot of times if you go to some of the schools, especially at the community college or four-year college level, they have the ability, you have to apply for it, but they have the ability to waive facility rental fees, especially if you partner with them and they can sell tickets and profit share in some way. There's ways to negotiate that. And the advantage of going on campus is the ticket prices are usually lower, but you can get sometimes a bigger audience and a more diverse audience because they're trying to attract students at the school to attend these events along with the community.
Yeah, interesting. I used to live in Huntington Beach.
I was going to say Chapman University has a really nice performing center as well. And
yeah, I think so. We've performed at Chapman, at Cal State Fullerton, UC Irvine.
Did we play at Chapman? When did we play at Chapman?
Didn't we?
I used to teach at Chapman, but we didn't play.
I feel like I performed there, but maybe I just made it up.
Not with me.
In Santa Monica College, and that was perfectly wonderful. Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's our West Side home. Is the
I
Edie.
was going to mention that too. SMC has really great venues.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Concordia has one. I know they've moved their location to a really large site down in, I think it's South Irvine, I want to say.
We have performed at Concordia.
Good location. I've only been there a couple of times.
Okay.
Honestly, if any of you guys think of something that seems like a good fit or somewhere that you would want to go and see us do our thing, just send us an email. You know, I was in Pacific Symphony for 10 years and Kevin lived down there in Huntington Beach for a long time, but it still feels a little bit like the Wild West.
Yeah,
kind of a lot of unknowns. It's so vast and there's so many little pockets, but our audience, and we'll talk about this more next week, but our audience data, you know, when we look at the IP addresses of everybody who tunes in, there's enough evidence that doing a concert in Orange County is a good idea.
Yeah, we
There's
tried it.
enough of
Yeah,
an
we tried it
audience.
before.
Right.
Yeah. There was another venue that I just feel like we have, there's like at Pasadena Conservatory, it's just like the right size for us. We feel really close to the audience. There's just a very intimate feel to it too. Yeah, any suggestions are welcome. Yeah.
How about downtown or midtown Los Angeles? Because I've seen you guys before. I think you guys performed at the Colburn School once, didn't you?
Used to, yeah.
We used to do it quite a bit.
Yeah, a little. I think we chose PCM over Colburn, partly because our audience, again, we noticed that they mostly lived there anyways, and cost was another. Colburn was easily twice as expensive once you factor in the reception space and the insurance they make you get and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Midtown, we've thought about, we've approached the Wallace a couple times. It's not exactly Midtown, but there's a small theater there called the Lovelace. And our impression is that the Wallace is still sort of, this was before COVID too, so I'm sure that has only complicated things for them, but that they're still sort of trying to figure out who and what they are and what they want to have there, especially when it comes to music. They're more of like a theater venue. So yeah, anyways, the any ideas welcome. Sarah, we've gone to, gosh, what city was it, Kevin? Port Townsend in Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like we've gone up, done little things up the Pacific Northwest, but it's kind of like, everything's on the table right now. This year has really just kind of been like plop, here's all this, all this new community and the new digital space, and we're just kind of trying to make sense of it with the feedback that we're getting and what seems to be working.
If we can help you get invitations places or fees reduced or whatever, let us know, because we can write letters, we can make phone calls, emails, whatever.
Oh,
please get this group.
That's so sweet.
Want to see them.
We would love to go to Tahoe.
All right, I'll let them know.
Subtle, Kevin. Yeah. Nice.
No, at some point we had thought about kind of doing a Salastina tour.
Yeah.
Or spending part of the year going around and performing. But our schedules were just, I don't know how that would work now.
Also,
but a summer residency in Tahoe sounds, acceptable. I don't know.
Yeah, right. At this point, it just feels like so much of what we do, like community, is intrinsic to that, and a tour is kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of why that never really took off more than a scheduling issue. But yeah.
What was the suggestion?
Will Greer's. Oh yeah, I've been there.
What is that? What is that place
Topanga.
Called? Topanga.
Yeah, I've been there. Yes, I looked into it. It's still shut down because of COVID, but yes, I've looked into that for summer festivals of ours, that summer concerts that we thought about doing years and years ago. It's really magical. Fun place to see Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Yeah. All righty, guys. Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight. And we're really excited about next week. It's going to be really special. And again, mostly for the fans. It's not something that we're like advertising to the public. It's like a thank you to the people who've been with us for a year and who've come our way, come into our fold in that time. So it'll be a lot of feels.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks.
Oh,
everyone.
Marina's asking about Villa. Yes, that was our former West Side venue, actually, the Villa. But now their general manager changed.
Yeah, so they have a new director there now. I know, but
yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
That was our venue for years, actually.
It's beautiful. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah. It was perfect for us. We loved it, but sadly off the table now.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, thank you for suggesting it, though. That's definitely in the right direction.
Yeah.
Places that we'd consider.
Let us know.
Okay. Thank you, Anne. That's very
Thanks.
kind. We really appreciate your support, and all of you too. Yeah. Okay, everybody, have a great week. See See you next
right.
time.
Good
Bye
night.
bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.